Good afternoon, everyone, and I want to thank you all again. I was walking around and talking to you and listening to some of the presentations and immersing myself in these beautiful posters. This is the mic. Is that it? Now you can. Now you have to pay attention, it sounds like. Anyway, today was just a wonderful array of presentations, these beautiful posters, and sidebar conversations. It's been, I don't know how to describe it except moving. And I think that what you've done over the years is extraordinary. You've contributed magnificently to a national good. And to pick up on some of Jackie's points this morning, I think at the end of these projects and the end of the day, we see ourselves somewhat differently. And it's just been great to be a part of this. I also want to say that we are winding down phase 1 in the cataloging hidden collections and going to kickstart phase 2, which is the digitization. But to assure you that my organization, that CLEAR, does not see this in any way as clearly demarcated. The digitization projects will build upon the cataloging projects. We look at this as a kind of professional conversation, and we want to work with you in whatever way we can to continue the conversations we've had today and to have these conversations and your excellent work inform what's going to go ahead, I think, for the next 5 or 7 years. One sort of exemplar of that interest and consideration is that everyone who received a cataloging special hidden collections grant is eligible for a digitization grant as well, and really urge you to apply for these new grants. And I probably don't need to urge you to apply, and that's great. We expect to be inundated this spring. To wind up today, it's my great pleasure to briefly introduce Will Noel. Jobs like this, when you're introducing someone who needs no introduction, it's an easy task. I think you all know Will. He's director of the Kislak Center for Rare Books and Manuscripts and the founding director of the Schoenberg Institute on Manuscript Studies. I am privileged to be a part of the Schoenberg Center Advisory Committee and just am overwhelmed, awed and inspired by what Will and his staff have done and continue to do in contributing to our understanding of manuscripts, the manuscripts culture, but as importantly that migration and again that kind of dialogue between the analog world of research and teaching and the new age of digitization. So Will has graciously agreed to close this conference with some personal remarks, some informal remarks based on what he has heard today and his experience. And Will, we're very grateful for your generosity.
Thank you very much, Chuck. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to have you all here today. I want to make 2 claims for us, the less ambitious first. With CLEAR's help, we have shaped history by redefining what constitutes an archive, by inventing new ways to process the archives, and by creating myriad paths of access to a stunning amount of previously hidden material from our past. We have in the last 8 years expanded the well of material upon which so many diverse audiences can draw. This is an enormous achievement, and we should thank CLEAR for funding our efforts and providing a compass to orient us. We can also thank each other for brilliantly mapping the terra incognita that so many others will enjoy exploring in their own ways. The second claim I want to make is that together with CLEAR, we have made history. This is a different point. I don't mean simply that we have organized the past in ways that make it history rather than debris, although that might be true. I mean rather that the Hidden Special Collections program has been a landmark program in library history, that it has fundamentally changed the way in which libraries go about their business. We have made archives history, and I applaud Jackie Goldie's conceptualization of this as the creation of the relational archive. If we are creating relational archives, what then has the archivist become? What are the characteristics of the relational archivist? Let's take Jackie literally. The archivist is now someone who creates acts of human contact and sociability, who actively engages the user in making the archive visible and functional. whose dialogue with the stakeholder becomes the quintessence of his or her practice, and who conceives of their archive as working interoperably with similar materials in geographically distant repositories. These are the archivists that I see every day in the Kislak Center, working collaboratively in a regional environment and in an international one, orchestrating students not just to process collections, but to publish them, and varying the depth of their cataloguing with an eye not only to the vast pile of yet to be processed material in their in-tray, but also with an eye to their users' needs. And this is a very far cry from the archivist that I trembled before as a student in England 30 years ago. So much has been achieved by archivists such as these, and the work is not done. There are vast tracts of analogue special collections still to be processed. And it is our job to continue to process them without the continued funding from CLIR. We still have CLIR's compass, but we don't have CLIR's money. CLIR, which is enormously proud of the achievements of the Hidden Archives program, is as anxious about this as many of you are. But I think the seeds of our future success are in our current practice. We have created digital gateways to our collections in experimental ways. We have created rich digital assets that can now be built on, further explored and emulated. Even though the archives that we have processed are for the most part analog, I would like to suggest that in another environment, we would be called digital humanists. We have certainly provided the tools and the data for these humanists to use, and who knows, maybe these same people will help us as we continue to celebrate and discover our past. And the delightful thing is that the Academy is catching up with us, and I predict that comparatively well-funded digital humanities student programs in universities and colleges across the land will be looking to the archives and to archivists to help them explore in a digital environment the still hidden analog world. CLIR itself is changing its emphasis to the digitization of hidden special collections, and with good reason. While it has changed the landscape for the cataloguing of hidden collections, current practices for the digitization of those collections need the radical rethinking that CLIR's money and brainpower can inspire. It's pretty clear to see what CLIR is aiming for. If you can just work with your neighbor, you double your money. 500,000 instead of 250,000 for those of us who are far-sighted enough to see that it is our combined data that is important rather than our branded proprietary website, and that digital collections can have an increased autonomy, integrity, and power precisely by transcending the physical limitations of analog collections. Collaboration is hard. Digital haves need to work with digital have-nots. It necessitates a generosity of spirit, both by the haves and the have-nots, that more than matches the generosity in cash that CLIR promises to the lucky few. But, as Chuck Henry has noted, there is no ambiguity. The future of academic libraries and higher education rests on the ability to reconceive ourselves holistically. We shouldn't be doing this for the money. We should be doing it for the future of humanity. So let's thank Chuck and all at CLIR for a fantastic past, and let's steel ourselves, have a drink, and go and make a future together. Thank you very much.